Welcome to Screen Quest, a podcast where a fellowship of film lovers and armchair movie experts plays film roulette. I am one of your hosts, Chris Waterman from Jacksonville, Florida, joined today by May Finch, also from Jacksonville. Welcome, May.
Hey, folks.
And certainly, last but not least, we have Will Rotondi from Greenville, South Carolina. How's it going, Will?
Good afternoon. Going well. How about yourself?
It's going great. Nice little Sunday afternoon. The weather's great here in Jacksonville. We are recording this on March 20th. So it feels like a proper spring day outside. Went for a little bike ride, just a really, really perfect Sunday. Thanks for asking. This is going to be take two. I've decided to call them takes because I'm in the middle of editing our first couple of episodes. And there's a visual element that I won't spoil that kind of jogged some creativity last minute. So from now on, they're not episodes, they are takes. So this is take two. And on today's episode, we will be discussing Troll 2, a film that we have thoughts on.
and keep in mind, it is Troll 2, not Trolls 2.
Just
important
distinction.
before we destroy any childhood dreams.
Yes, exactly. But we wanted to kick off with a little tiny opener for you all today. So I wanted to do a This Week in Film History. And without further ado, This Week in Film History, in 1931, the first theater built for rear movie projection was built in New York City. I'm sure there was other theaters that had used rear projection prior to this, but this was the first theater built with rear projection in mind. I imagine that would probably influence how your seats would have been arranged and probably the size of the theater as well. So exciting stuff, a nice milestone in film history. Not surprised at all that it was in New York City. That city seems to, as much as we associate Los Angeles with making movies, New York City's been an important place for screening them. So
I have what may be a dumb question, but what did they do before they had a rear projector?
So I looked this up. There were a few different methods of projection, including using like a chamber with cylinders in it, and sometimes even like crude like jars with liquid and lamps to kind of like get projection going. So it's a bit of a complicated history. I would love to
witchcraft. It was witchcraft
indeed. Yes, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that started a fire in like France somewhere when they did it with like the liquid you were talking about, but I could be wrong. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yes, a lot of volatile compounds in movie history, in particular like film itself up until very recently was when it was converted to digital, very volatile. There was a big fire, I don't know if you guys recall, and on the Universal Studios backlot where Hill Valley burned down, unfortunately, like where they had shot Back to the Future. All that was preserved, but it was the archives. There was a fire that started there and it just goes up like crazy. So a little bit of film history for you all. So we're going to kick off our episode with a side quest. So for those of you that might be new to the podcast, joining us on take two, we're going to draw a card that's going to generate a spontaneous conversation. So let's give them a little shakaroo here, a little shuffle, and let's see what we get. Oops, I picked up the whole deck.
All of them.
Our second topic for conversation is I'd like to thank, which I believe, and I'm going to double check my notes here, is where we talk about a film that was influential in our journey as film lovers. But let me just double check that. So yes, I'd like to thank is a topic where we will talk about a film that was influential in our life and talk about why. Do either of you have a film that springs to mind? I certainly do, if neither of you do.
Take it away, Chris.
All right.
Go for it, man. You got it locked.
So The movie that I would like to talk about today is a film that I just recently saw with May in theaters, the original Godfather. It's special to me for a lot of different reasons and influential for a lot of different reasons. But let me walk you back to my history with this film. So I remember hearing my mom and my stepfather talking about it on and off because it was on television a lot back then. As like this movie that was like legendary, and I remember even like popping into the living room when they were watching it, and it looked like something that was pretty boring, as like a 9 or 10 year old. And then I was visiting my cousins up in New York, probably about 11 years old or so, and it was on television. And I somehow, like from like the advertisements, like showing that it was coming up, like I was like, oh, this is a gangster movie. Well, that's cool. And then I got about 30 minutes into the film. Like there's this long wedding scene that opens it if you've never seen it. And I just fell promptly asleep. And I was like, well, guess that's the end of that, right? Like this is boring as shit. Nice try. And then maybe about 2 years later, my stepdad brought it up again, and I was like, why do like this movie was boring? Like, why does everybody like this movie so much? It just looks like it's dull. It's supposed to be a gangster movie, right? He's like, oh yeah, it has so many classic scenes, and he like rattled off a couple lines that were vaguely familiar even at 13. And he was like, I'll tell you what, let's go rent it from the video store. And like I sat down like full of energy, not sleepy, and like proceeded to watch like what became like it's flip-flopped between Vertigo, but like is always in my top two like favorite films like ever list. Completely blown away by it. It just was swept up in the cinematography and the music in particular, like even as like a very young person, like those things just blew me away. And I watched it like 2 more times before we returned it to the movie store, and my stepdad, being the awesome guy that he is, went to like Walmart and bought me like the little VHS, like the little 2 VHS tape, like so I could just like have it. And then of course, like with allowance money and like chore money, I went and bought like the second one, and fell just as deeply in love with that. The reason this movie is so influential though to me is like I think there, like, it taught me at various points in like my film journey so many different things about movies and film production. So like for example, flash forward to like being in college and learning about cinematography. And we had a whole entire chapter in my intro to film class about Gordon Willis and like the lighting of this movie. He was called the Prince of Darkness because of the way he lit the shots. And there's lots and lots of dark space and like very, very stark lighting on the actors and certain bits of the set and things like that. So this has been like a lifelong education through just this one movie. And I always see something new, always learn something new every time I watch it, like without a doubt. So that's my pick. May, I know this was your first time. You were so spoiled seeing this in 4K in a theater. What did you make of it, like in general?
Yeah, so I always felt kind of ashamed that I hadn't seen it. That's like, I don't know, part of the reason I love this podcast is because I think a lot of the idea is that we're not snobs about film. We just want to enjoy movies and talk about them with people. And I was always scared to admit that I'd never seen The Godfather. And then I did finally go see it, and it I am not a huge fan of like mafia movies, but I loved it just for, well, a lot of the things that you said, Chris, but the cinematography and score was incredible. The acting was fantastic. Like Michael was such an interesting character to focus on through that, because I had expected it to be on like the original Godfather, for him to be the focus of the film, but he's like out taken out most of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really interesting to follow Michael and see that. And I shared this with Chris at the time, but I wish they'd utilized like the women in the film more, just in part because I know those are actually quite talented actresses, and like could have done a bit more. But it was still really cool. And it's also good to know where like the dead horse head in the bed thing came from.
Yeah, no, I think like there it's a valid argument as far, as the participation of women in the film. One of my favorite production stories is that like Francis Ford Coppola didn't want to put Talia Shire in the film because that's his sister. Like they're
Mm.
yeah, he was afraid of like perceptions of nepotism. And she insisted on being allowed to audition, like unbiased, like fine, don't be in the room, like, but I want like this part, and got the part on merit alone, and proved everybody wrong as far as like I think nepotism was the furthest thing from. I mean, she's perfect as Connie Corleone,
Oh, definitely.
and where that character goes to is fantastic too in future installments too. So I'm very glad that we got her as Connie. I can't imagine anybody else playing that role. And of course, Diane Keaton, she's wonderful, and just about everything she's in. Like she's one of those just like powerhouse actors from that era. A lot of great performances. Will, what's your experience with The Godfather? I'd be curious.
It's funny. I don't think I watched Godfather until college, and for me that was about probably 15 years ago when I saw it for the first time. And it was one of those things where people used to tell me, yeah, this is a great film. And I think it was understandably so, kind of like what May had mentioned too, with the sort of the lack of the strong female characters in it. It was always sort of promoted as like a guy's flick to go see throughout when I was growing up, at least. That seemed to be like the stereotype. And so it was one of those films where I guess I sort of always figured one day I would watch it, but my folks were never really big into Godfather, which maybe or maybe not is weird because like my dad's full Italian, so I don't know if that has any influence on it or not, but it was one of those things where I thought, it was kind of strange, I guess, looking back, that I never actually watched it until I was out of my folks' place. But it was one of those things where I enjoyed it too. Like I definitely appreciate it for the cinematography. And it was fun to actually go through and watch like the entire trilogy in college. It was one of those things where we had a fantastic library, and so it's really nice to always have that available, even if I guess that was around the time streaming was just starting up, or also perhaps illegally sharing of files. But anyway,
I never ever
yeah,
logged on
yeah.
to our intranet like file sharing hub and
No, of course not.
good stuff.
They didn't have that there. I don't know what you're talking about. I won't name names or anything. No.
Piracy who?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that was, but it was one of those, like just the fact for the actors that are in there, it's like if you wanted to see, like classic Pacino or Brando, and then even too for like the sequels, like you're talking about, Chris, where it was like seeing where the storyline went and seeing how the characters evolved. It's definitely a very powerful film, and for all the references that I had always seen that you could kind of place in other films that you were like, okay, this is referencing Godfather, I kind of know what they're talking about very loosely, and to actually see that in the film and connect the dots and actually see the authentic scene was really nice. The horse head, which I didn't realize was real, which that was a nice fact that you dropped on me and was also unfortunate, but I mean, It was already dead before, which is good. No no animals were intentionally harmed in the making of the film. And it kind of thinking about all the mafia movies that have come since then, I mean, this was literally like the godfather of all of those, right? I mean, there were gangster films, I'm sure, before that, but this is sort of like when people talk about mafia, that's like the first thing they think of is the Godfather. And I'd actually be really interested to know if and you, Chris, you might be able to fill me in here on this. I'd like to know like how realistic, like was this close to like a real family that this was modeled on, or was this just like somebody took some ideas and maybe talked to some guys that were shady and thought, this would be a really good book. I'm just gonna because it's Mario Puzo, right? Like
Mario Puzo. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. I may have known this at some point and it's fallen out the back of my brain, but I would like to know like how realistic it lines up with what really would have happened.
Yeah. So really, probably the only people that could honestly answer that are people that like are involved in that lifestyle. But by all counts, like they had a nice little introductory to like the anniversary of the book, which I reread like a year or two ago.
Nice.
And by all counts, like it is fairly like realistic in terms of like organization. So like the capos and like kind of like the organization of like the family itself. Obviously Sinatra took tremendous issue because he had, you know, lots of sort of rumors around him and his career. So the Johnny Fontaine character is supposed to be fairly, you know, realistic, sort of a not, you know, one-to-one analogy to Sinatra, but like pretty close. And then the vernacular is the thing that people said it was like the probably the most, like, so it's the way they talk, right?
Yeah.
Like and sort of carry on and interact, like that supposedly is the part that rang most true, I guess, to people watching it. So
like going to the mattresses or stuff like that.
I'm not sure what expressions like exactly, you know, but yeah, but I know that Puzo coached Coppola on, like the famous example is like, no, like the gangsters don't saute garlic, they fry it. You fry up your garlic and your onions, you don't saute. like when he was giving notes on like the script. So there's that scene where, you know, Clemenza is teaching Michael how to make tomato sauce, like, right? But I think like this is probably the first movie too that like it taught me, again, as a young person, that like even though it's a heavy genre film, like it is about so much more than like what sort of the backdrop is. Like, you know, the mafia backdrop is just a backdrop in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, there's tons of violence and things like that, but like there's a lot of things going on in this movie, and it has a lot of things to say outside of just like the mafia aspects. But to your point, yeah, there were gangster movies before, but they were made primarily while the Hollywood Code, you know, that we talked about last episode was, or sorry, on Take Zero rather, like, you know, basically stipulated that the bad guy always had to get it in the end, right? Like you could have a gangster film where the gangster was front and center, but like he had to like die or end up in prison. Like there had to be some sort of like moral comeuppance. And this was a film that broke that mold, you know, entirely, where it's like some people do, but some don't, you know. So yeah, cool. I'm always down to talk. This probably will not be the last time this movie comes up. So sorry to both of you and to our dear audience members.
We could just have a Godfather recurring segment.
Yeah, Godfather of the Week.
That's right. I like name drop some piece of trivia in every episode to see if anybody catches it. Yeah.
Absolutely. My 4K versions come in this week, so we will have to do a part 2 screening with Nathan, who went to see it with us sometime very soon. I acknowledge 1 is probably my favorite and probably most people's favorites, but like I think 2 is the better film, right? And there's like kind of an important distinction there where I think like to me like 2 is the like superior for a lot of different reasons that I can't say. That would be tremendous spoilers, but the story in particular. But yeah, cool. All right, well, let us transition. So as a little recap, we drew our second card last week, and it was a unicorn or dead horse, a topic where we will decide if Troll 2 either enhanced or degraded the cinematic world of Troll 1 and the legacy of Troll 1. And this is such an interesting, I can't wait to get into all this because this is interesting for so many reasons. But I'm going to hand it over once again to May, who nominated this film, and bless you for doing it now having seen it. Thank you so much. Take it away. I want give us a little bit of context and lead us through the discussion, since it's your pick.
Yeah. So Troll 2 came out in 1990, 4 years after Troll 1, the original. It is important to note right off the bat that the direction, stars, production company, like all of that for Troll 2 is different from Troll 1. And there is in fact no common thread between the two. There actually aren't any trolls in Troll 2 either. I'll get into why that happened in a moment, but just some basics about the film. It was directed by Claudio Fragrasso, who used the pseudonym Drake Floyd. And this is based on Wikipedia, but apparently he came up with that because he liked dragons and Pink Floyd. Cool. Allegedly.
I mean, too cool.
Who doesn't?
So
Yeah. Um, it stars Michael Stevenson, George Hardy, Connie McFarland, and Jason Wright. And if you don't really know any of those names, you shouldn't, because they are all pretty much people that were in the area, which this is filmed in Utah, who responded to the open casting call, thought they were going in to audition for extras, and then got cast as the stars because there were no prominent stars at all. If to answer the question of what Troll 2 is about, I I need to give you the context of the writers. So the director also wrote the story with his wife, Rosella Drudy, and she resented the fact that a lot of her friends were going vegetarian. She also was tasked with creating this film as a horror film with no blood. So she took those two elements and decided that it would be a horror film where goblins, not trolls, but goblins, attack people and eat them. But to avoid there being any blood, and also because the evil goblins are vegetarians, they have to turn the people into plants first. And that is the basic premise of Trolls 2. To give you a little bit more background info, Fragrasso and Drudy have written some other hits, including Violence in a Woman's Prison, Hell of the Living Dead, and Fragrasso made a film titled Monster Dog featuring Alice Cooper.
Was Alice Cooper actually in it? Because apparently he just likes the title shit that like has no relevance to it.
I've not seen it, but as far as I can tell, yes, Alice Cooper was in it.
Okay.
So he's got that to his name. But some other oddities with the film before we get into the actual substance of it are that the crew was entirely Italian and did not speak English. So there was actually a huge language gap. The stars that they cast in the area were largely Mormon, lived in Utah, and were often quite uncomfortable with some of the lines that they had to deliver. And because Fragrasso and Drudy were not entirely fluent in English, you get this kind of strangely formal dialect in all of the lines. And apparently a lot of the actors and actresses have criticized them and said, you know, they made suggestions for how to make it sound more conversational and realistic. And they were told, just, you know, you have to read the script as it is. There's no changes. So that is the reason a lot of the lines do feel kind of jarring and awkward.
You can't mess with perfection, okay?
You can, yeah.
You also can't piss on hospitality either.
Oh,
Will not allow it.
Or can you?
Michael Stevenson, who plays the young protagonist Joshua Waits, actually went on to create Worst Best Movie in 2010, which is a documentary about the making of Troll 2. Highly recommend watching it. It's a gem. The film also has its own riff tracks if you're looking for a guided viewing experience. And with that, that is all the preparation I can give our dear listeners and viewers. Where would you guys like to start? Because there is a lot.
I feel like we have to hit pause and walk it back a little bit. So, full disclosure, we watched the original Troll in preparation for this movie. Actually, we did a double feature in a party chat. I'm glad I had you two along for the ride because woof. So let's take a step back. What is Troll 1? Let's like do like together. We could just quickly summarize that, and then like we'll go from there, because this is all about sequels, and I think this is a great pick because it's not technically a sequel, but it was implying itself to be. So you want to take a stab at like off the cuff summarizing Troll 1, either of you?
Yeah, so first off, it has a troll in it, actually. So that's the first big difference.
Yep.
There is a witch and a troll that are both in this apartment building. Apparently they used to be married or something. I don't know. And the troll decides it's going to conquer the world by conquering the apartment building first, and slowly turns everyone into the apartment into plant pods slash sexy naked ladies.
Elves, maybe. Yeah.
And does this by doing body snatchers take over of the young protagonist, Harry Potter Jr.'s sister.
I was so surprised. So I saw this VHS tape on the not to continue to date myself this entire episode, but on the shelf like frequently as a kid, and I imagined something way more sinister than what this movie actually is. Like so like as this opened up, I was like, oh no, is this gonna be like an It style, like death of a child, like gory? And then it wasn't until halfway through I was like, what's this thing rated? This doesn't seem like it's that bad. Oh, it's PG-13, right? This is way less sinister. Like it is in the vein of like a Gremlins is the closest analogy I could come up with, but it's like even less like kind of like envelope pushing than Gremlins would have been. But like it has those sort of practical effects, like a little bit of silliness, like tied in with like you know, a horror, like it's horror comedy, I guess you would call it, right? You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It has none of the charm of Gremlins. It tries, but it has none of the charm of Gremlins. In fact, I think we were all in like unanimous agreement that was his name Malcolm, the little person that is befriended by not like this was weird to me too, because it wasn't really the daughter, but like at times I forgot that it wasn't her because there was almost a benevolent relationship and I didn't really understand what that was all about. Like, what was all that about? Like,
well, then it's like his character just disappears by the end of the film and you don't really know what happens to him.
But the troll seems to genuinely like him, and I couldn't figure out why. He's awesome. He's the only great, like, or not a great's maybe a step to. He's the only good, capable actor in this whole thing, and the only one that made me feel anything. But like, the troll seems to like, for inexplicable reasons, like him and like want to like save him, you know. And he's like reincarnated as like a little elf or something. I don't know, because that's what he asked him in the beginning. Are you an elf? But.
I'm sitting on a piece of trivia because this is very interesting to me. But Phil Fondacaro, who played Malcolm, actually played one other character. Can you guess?
Troll.
Yes. He also played Torok.
Yeah.
So they might get along because they're literally the same person.
Yeah, it was so needless to say, if you couldn't tell from the fact that we're having trouble describing this movie, it was all over the place, like all over the place. Like the lore was shaky at best. The motivations were not entirely clear. The fates of the characters were just left as a cliffhanger and not in like a good way either. Like I think May, you said, well, see, they're setting it up for a sequel, right? Like I think, didn't you comment that as a
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, very open-ended yet dark kind of wrap up to the film. I was also getting It vibes from the opening where the girl's like running down to the basement, playing with her little ball, and gets body snatched right off the bat. I was trying to do some more research into like why like a lot of the lines in this also felt very out of place, not to the extent of Troll 2.
No.
But like at one point Harry Potter Sr. yells to his wife, like, did you take a lot of drugs before I met you, honey? Because his son is acting weird. Which is, I don't even get the joke there.
No. There was a lot of that. We're like, what does that have to do with anything? I know we said that a couple times. We're like, what? Yep.
Or when the witch was asking, like, what day of the week was the bomb dropped in Hiroshima? And to the dad, to Harry Potter Sr., and he's just like, I don't know, what was it? And she's like, we may never know. And the same sort of thing, like, okay,
somebody was stoned. I get the impression there was a lot of cocaine being used on the set of this movie from the performances and everything.
I agree.
Somebody was really fucking stoned, and like that's like they started to write what they thought was going to be an awesome like soliloquy or something, and like or monologue, I guess, like, and like they were like, nah, I don't know how to bring this to a close, so we're just gonna have them say this line.
Yep.
And maybe somebody will think it's profound. I don't know. It's so weird. So this is the wagon that Troll 2 decided to hitch its star to. Of all the 80s movies they could have ripped off, and aped for to be like a sequel to. This is the one they picked. So I encourage you to watch this as well. It's not as fun as Troll 2 in that it's so bad it's good vibe, but it is it's an interesting little slice of history. Continue. All right, now we've caught up. So where do you want to start with Troll 2, May?
God. I think starting with chronologically, like the grandpa and the whole storybook scene.
Oh,
I did ensure that The Princess Bride did come out before this, about 3 years prior. So
yes.
that is confirmed. So it feels like a horror spin on that a little bit. But yeah, what do you guys think of Grandpa Seth?
Awesome. He's like one of my favorite enigmatic characters in this entire movie. Like he's like such a dick in that like scene where he's like trying to like talk him through the story, and then like he's never really like tender like in any of the interactions, but like he is the go get shit done like person in this whole thing. But yeah, I liked him. He was fun. I didn't like him as much as the music that plays during the like all of the chase scenes, but in particular this opening with like the wailing guitars and like keyboard and all that stuff. That was quite the touch. I don't know. What about y'all? What about y'all? Grandpa, what do you think?
I just love that there's the whole weird dialogue where he gets banished to hell and then clarifies that he's not actually in hell, but he is getting sent back there. And this is the part of the film where you see he like is very proficient with a hatchet and Molotov cocktail.
And a bologna sandwich.
I need to know what Grandpa Seth did before he died.
And why he knows so much about goblins and about
yes, they never explain that. I was like, oh, he's gonna have grown up in this place and escaped or like have some sort of familial ties. Like,
nope. Goblins are still real. That's all we know, kid. And this is how you kill them.
I do love the special effects, like where you can clearly see they've tried to black out like his outfit, like in the mirror, and you could just see he's wearing like a turtleneck. Like he's supposed to be a disembodied head, but it's just like a turtle. He looks like a bank robber that's like taking off his ski mask, like for a second to give some exposition for the audience and for the child. But yeah,
I appreciate that he only put 10 minutes into like the afterlife toll booth or whatever. You couldn't call after that. He only had 10 minutes.
Well, he's all about the time constraints. We only have 30 seconds before you better do something.
That was the thing I noticed in Troll 1, and I do kind of wonder where that like trope began, but it's like giving an arbitrary but short time span to get something done, where it's like, how could you possibly know the exact number of minutes or days that will take? Isn't this supposed to be some magical face stuff? Like,
what the way you create suspense, right, is like you have to have some sort of time constraint. Like, so you can't have a ticking bomb. I mean, I suppose they could have in this. I wouldn't have batted an eye if I fucking. That's why I was like, so help me God, if he pulls some C4 out of that backpack at the end, I will not be surprised. But Jesus, so I think like that's the way like that they're trying to like evoke suspense, and it results in the greatest solution to how do I stop my family from eating an entire meal problem ever presented on screen.
you can't piss on hospitality.
That's right. I won't allow it. Yeah. Awesome.
So like the original title for this was Goblins, correct? I think I saw that somewhere.
It was. And like I said, there was a lot of miscommunication between the cast, which was, very randomly picked, just random people from Utah. There's a dentist is actually the guy who played the dad, Michael Waits. And he like enjoys his brief moment in the spotlight, but he just went back to dentistry. He's never done any more acting.
Except for there's one notable role, which you may be he does have one notable role after this.
The documentary?
Nope.
Oh, no.
What am I missing?
There's an official sequel to this movie where he reprises his role.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yes.
Oh God.
I did see that he was a dentist after we watched the movie. I was like, I I was so glad that I was unprepared in the like purest sense for both of these. I knew nothing about either. So
Same, same. But yeah, there's a lot of miscommunication between the cast and crew and writers. And the cast, a lot of them just never saw the movie until it came to VHS and people would send it to them. And that's when they found out that the name had been changed to Troll 2 from Goblins. Just a total lack of communication in this film.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't show at all. Like, I mean, this production seems like it was a well-oiled machine. Jesus.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
yeah, for as like off the wall as it is, it's consistent in its tone. It's very much aware of, or at least the directors seem to be very much aware of the vision that he had in mind. Whether or not the rest of the crew really knew what they were getting into is arguable, but yeah.
Um, I'd love to talk about some of the more notable characters. For instance, the boys. What do we think about the boys and Elliot's internal struggle between them and his
Oh
girlfriend?
man, what do you choose? Your buddies or your girl? It's hard. It is hard.
we
Yeah,
talked about
they're
this
like
on
Winnebago.
mic. Like this, it was so weird. Like the
Yeah,
beef, they were like very wholesome as far as like teenage portrayals. Like
Yeah.
they're just drinking Mountain Dew and like trying to get something to eat, like no drugs, no alcohol use. Like they very much seem like normal teenagers. And the dad's like that good for nothing, like likes to hang out with his friends too much. Like I did not understand the beef whatsoever about either Elliot or his friends, like to be honest.
Yeah, the dad should have been grateful. He's like, yeah, good. He's hanging with his friends. He's not pestering you for the weekend. Yeah. It was very strange. Although I thought it was also, I think, and Chris pointed this out, like, that just randomly has like this, this motorhome, this Winnebago that they're taking out to go, tag along with his girlfriend and their family when they do this house swap with this random couple out in Utah. And so it's like, okay, that's interesting. Not sure where they got that from or, why their parents were okay with them just taking it for a stroll, but unless that didn't happen, which would also make sense too, to take I guess your Winnebago for a joyride, although that would be pretty noticeable depending on your parenting. But yeah, it was very random.
It's like it's so weird because like I know in high school, like my high school girlfriend's parents would have been furious if I had crashed their vacation. Like my
Right.
friends being
no
along
kidding.
with them, like would not have had anything to do with it. It'd have been like, what are you doing here? Like we're on
Yep.
vacation. They wouldn't have been like, you either leave your friends behind or you come. And then like the next scene when he makes this fateful decision, he's just part of the family now apparently. Like there was like some throwaway line about how he's just part of the family now, and it's like calm down, he's just coming out to dinner for a couple hours, I think.
I know. I'm not sure if this is like reading into a film for too much meaning where it clearly doesn't seem to have much of any. But I was trying to look and see what other people have written about this. It does seem like it's implied that he's like a quote unquote homo with like that joke in the very start of the film because he hangs out with his guy friends so much. So it's kind of reject homosexuality, join the idyllic American family, as well as reject vegetarianism, join the idyllic meat eater American family.
I did pick up on some of the homoeroticism of like how they were positioned like in bed, like when they were
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
sleep next to each other. Yeah.
shirtless. Not that
So
like
like
that in
that's one
itself,
take I
but
saw online, but I don't know if we can even read into any meaning.
sure. Yeah, gosh. There's so much of this that's got like I question just about everything. The only thing that I'm sure is intentional is the corn scene, and we'll get to that in a second. Like that doesn't happen by
And
accident.
that was corn with a C.
Yes, yeah, not with a K. Oh boy. So let's talk about the titular creature or lack thereof. As you've already pointed out, there is no troll in this film. There are goblins. What do we think of the goblins? I want to talk about the goblins for a second.
Well, if we want to compare them to the first one, like they definitely dropped in. I mean, obviously the budget wasn't very big for this film, but I feel like that was sort of I don't know, if you're going to try and market it, maybe try and have some sort of special effects, or I say that loosely, that are trying to be similar to what you're trying to copy, but it was like night and day. It was so weird because going from like all the sort of the Jim Henson style, puppetry that we saw in the first one to going to this, where it's obviously just very poor costuming that, whatever was cheap. There's only like one goblin that seemed to have like fully formed eyes that then apparently explode later when some other stuff goes down, versus like everybody else that just looks like I don't know, like a clone of each other, and they all, I don't know, it was just very, very campy. And yeah, that was that's my take on it. It was pretty rough.
Uh,
They were
there's
less
like,
gooey at least.
yeah, they were, but there's definitely a lot of green slimy stuff all over this movie. The one with the eyes was my favorite, the constantly surprised goblin, like just shocked at every turn of events.
Yeah.
The thing that was most bizarre to me is like I guess they're supposed to be like disguising themselves as human. Is that what we're supposed to infer from like the fact that they look human? I think this movie would have been scarier if they were just like people. Like it would have worked better. Like if they just made these like crazy like Utah natives that like to convert people to like vegetarians. Like they're almost like cannibals that like it's not technically cannibalism because they're turning them into vegetables first. Like the goblin aspect is what had me scratching my head. I'm like, this movie would have been probably would have saved on some special effects and would have been scarier if it was just like weird people engaging in witchcraft or something. But
it's true, there were like too many levels to it. Like you have too many different random pieces that you're trying to then have like a resolution in the end, slash also leave it hanging. So yeah.
It's that classic expression, you can't call yourself troll 2 if you don't have goblins, I guess. Like is that how the saying goes?
Classic. Yeah, it's in film discourse actually. We learned about that.
Oh god.
Oh god, indeed. They're gonna turn me into a plant and eat me.
Oh my god. I've seen that meme in it, like, so that was me like engaging a little bit more with like in the I'm like, oh, I get it now, I understand that reference.
I did want to say that the actor for Arnold in an interview with Vice said of his audition, I showed up for the audition in Park City and it was just this room full of chain smoking Italians. The smoke in the room was so thick you almost couldn't see them.
That sounds about right.
That's all he had to say about his audition experience.
As if that explains it and sums it up. I guess maybe it does. Like, who knows?
I see the cigarette smoke as a metaphor for the haze that is over the meaning of this film.
Cigarettes aren't the only thing being smoked on this film.
No.
Nope.
Definitely not.
That's the only connection between this and Troll. Is the drug use that was fueling the energy and also the creative genius that was on full display. So
can I ask you, all right, so like it's very obvious like what the first movie is going for, like not succeeding in but going for. What do you think this movie is going? Because like I could not for the life of me. I know like it called itself Troll 2 to like maybe bump up some revenue, box office revenue, or whatever, but like I'm like, I don't know what genre like this is supposed to be, right? Like, did you get any sense of that when you were watching this at all? Like,
I thought it was like a Rocky Horror Picture Show out in Utah. Like that was my vibe. I got that it was supposed to be intentionally off the wall, that in some ways, I guess the wife of the director was talking about the creative vision that she had, which was essentially fuck vegetarianism and also I'm homophobic. And those are the 2 points that I have taken away from this film. But I think that I think it embraces that camp. I think that's really why it's entertaining as much as it is, because there's a lot of films out there you can watch that are bad. And that they're bad, and you really cannot get through them because they are just so bad. And I think that Troll 2 is actually different. Like in the right situation, the right setting, like with a group of friends, like we did. Alcohol was definitely a contributing factor to making it better and enhancing the experience. Yep. So I will say that bring your 6-pack or your dark liquor of choice, or any liquor. I shouldn't specify. But
or if you don't drink, have somebody punch you in the face really hard before you watch. If you don't imbibe, like, hey, that's fine. But like, have
Yeah,
somebody hit you really hard at the very least. Like,
knock the wind out of you. Maybe.
Or watch it after like staying awake for like a day or two.
there you
Yes.
go.
There you, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you will hallucinate that you even saw this film. Yeah, that's true. So I think that's sort of what they were going for. Because it was so much of, at first maybe you might have believed that they were trying to do something that was sort of in the vein of realm of trying to be serious, but then it was like the more that you watched and the more characters they threw in and the more just so surreal and like intentionally like the shock value of the weird sort of special effects, like when people turned into plants and all this green goo, or like the just the over the top delivery of the lines because of the fact that they were not actors, or the fact that some characters were intentionally being so outlandish, like Credence, who's
Yeah.
like the weird witch lady who's leading the goblins. I can't remember if she's supposed to be a goblin too. I kind of lost it.
Maybe.
Maybe questionable, also strange sort of sex symbol in the film. But it was like, yeah, when she shows up and I'm like, this is the Rocky Horror aspect of it. Like it's come into full picture now for me on that. And so that was what I took away from it. To watch. That was sort of what I felt like they were aiming for when they did it.
Do you think it was intentional? Because I've seen that, like, he is the director who his name's already got out of my brain. Make it probably help me.
Grasso.
There you go. Has since implied or like explicitly stated really that like this, like the intent all along was to be funny, which is something that Tommy Wiseau has done with like The Room. I wonder, but you buy it though. You say like you think like the intent was to be silly all along. I mean, the corn scene again. Well, I do want to talk about that because it's a standout. I think is very supportive of that argument. Like, again, how do you film something like that not knowing that you're going for a little bit of silly? But I still wonder at times.
Real quick to Will's point, this actually has been screened frequently alongside Rocky Horror, so that is definitely what it kind of fits into. It's also been screened alongside Troll 1. So I will say that is a coin in the bucket for saying that this had the bigger influence, because I don't think Troll 1 would have been screened as many times, personally.
I wonder if people would even talk about Troll 1 if it wasn't for this movie, right?
I know. I know. But we'll decide that at the end of the episode, just throwing that out there. So yeah, corn.
Before we jump into that, I do have one quick follow-up question then. If it was in fact screened with Rocky Horror, was there any participation involved in this film? Because I know that Rocky Horror is very involved. You do certain things with the audience to mess around with it. So like, is there like a Troll 2, like bring your own corn cob? Like where?
I couldn't find anything on that. So I think we're just going to have to go on a field trip and do some research. We're going to have to find a screening.
We're going to Utah, guys. Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you for humoring me. That's it.
It's not hard to imagine. Like, I mean, like throwing popcorn during the popcorn scene, or yelling, "Oh my God," or like, any number of things. Gosh, the food. Anyway, it's good. Corn. Please continue, May. Corn.
So yeah, I see this scene as the film kind of like starting to get comfortable with and leaning into all the weirdness. I do feel like regardless of the intention at the start of the film, whether it was to be serious or funny, the actors and actresses are just so fresh that everything is still pretty awkward no matter what. But as they get more and more comfortable, they really lean into it and like kind of make it their own. And there is no better example than this corn scene. So at the start of the scene, and this is actually another similarity with Troll 1, the witch character gets pretty. In Troll 1, they actually switched actresses from the mom to an actress who was her daughter, which was funny. This one, she just redid her makeup in here. So lower budget. But yeah, so our druid witch, Credence Leonore Gielgud, gets a little makeover and heads out to the RV where the last of Elliot's boy crew is chilling, watching TV, and decides to seduce him with a cob of corn and a rather revealing black dress. And it kind of works, And some popcorn is produced as a result.
I've never seen a more bizarre symbol for orgasm than popcorn flying on top of both of the people as they're making out over a cob of corn.
No more popcorn. No more.
Yeah, he's just covered in pop. I mean, so I agree. I think this is the first time where like they really wink at the audience. Like if you were trying to hang with this as like any kind of like serious film up to this point, this would pretty much tell you like all you need to know about like what your mindset should be going forward. So refresh my memory. Her motives here are like to originally to digest him too, or like turn him into a plant too, and then she has to leave because the Stonehenge rock or whatever is being touched by the child. Is that what happens?
That's a great question, Chris. I don't know.
I don't remember. See, it's like
I remember, but it made no sense.
Yeah.
Not that I want to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, go for it.
I was just wondering if the popcorn was supposed to be like his version of like transforming, because everybody it was a little bit different each time. And he was the one that said, I like popcorn. So she's just like, I can work with that. It's still a vegetable, it's still in a different form. So maybe that's, and then maybe he disappears underneath all of that. And but I don't know. Again, and I think to May's point, I think, yeah, she got interrupted because everything else going back with the weird stone was happening, and she sensed it, and her spidey senses were tingling, and she's like, I gotta go. And so, yeah.
The Stonehenge rock. Like, why is
Right.
that?
Which is in Utah now, apparently.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
And didn't Credence say she was from like Stonehenge at one point too? So that's
Her family was from Stonehenge apparently, because that's where people just like that was a
Came
village,
from?
I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, and she's apparently a druid, but maybe also a goblin,
Question mark.
but definitely not a troll.
Definitely not a troll.
To be clear, yeah. Or a troll-like creature, depending on how the subtitles would like to describe you.
That was in like the credits. That's what had me laughing, like the opening credits. It just said troll-like
Oh,
creature.
nice. And that was in the first troll movie, right? Was where they described it. So
I think it was the second one, and I think it's because they weren't trolls. I think that's how they.
Gotcha.
So they
So
could get
sort of
slapped with
snuck it
a
in there. Yeah.
misleading advertisement or whatever. Like, yeah. So not that I want to like try to be too academic about a movie that probably doesn't deserve that kind of attention. What do you think they're trying to say about vegetarians in this? Since this is a movie about vegetarian, obviously we know she was annoyed by the rise of vegetarianism with her friends, the writer, co-writer of the film, the wife of the director. But like, what's the message we're supposed to glean here?
It's coming from someone who's clearly never actually seen a vegetable, because she thinks they look like green goo, apparently. So there's that caveat. It's also very confusing because I'm vegetarian. I will speak for the community here. Most of the vegetarians I know, and myself included, are like lacto-ovo vegetarians, which means we'll have dairy and egg. And in the film, like eggs were a huge no. Like, we have none of that in the general store. That is sinful. But they keep trying to give people eggs. And I asked this as you were watching and never got answered. Where are the cows? What are they milking? Are they milking the plants? Is this like almond milk? Like, I don't think so.
Milk was disgusting. Like, oh, whatever they use, like for maybe it was just curdled milk. Who knows? Like, maybe they just left it out on the shelf just to see it in the film. But like,
It's chunky. Yeah.
I can't tell you what the milk means, but I mean it
Came from
just,
the goblins. That's where it came from.
Oh God.
Jesus Christ.
And that's where we'll leave it.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's such a funny criticism of vegetarianism to me, because like, first of all, I was reading an interview with Judy, the woman who wrote that part of it, and she was saying it was a comic horror about vegan fanaticism, and veganism is entirely different. So I also just think this person didn't know anything about these diets, but was mad at them.
I don't think so. I think you're accurate there. Yes.
And then like had to in a weird way, use like a common argument against meat eating to make her argument against plant eating, because a lot of people are vegetarian for like ethical reasons because they don't want to like kill and eat other things. But in this movie, she makes her point by making it so that they kill and eat people, but just turn them into vegetables so they're palatable.
Yeah, that's the thing that I really didn't understand. I'm like, so you're implying that vegetarians are murderers, but this is not how vegetarians like interact with their food ever, like unless they're goblins apparently. And my wife watching the film, like I don't know, 3/4 of the way in was like, if they're vegetarian, why there's plants everywhere? Like, why aren't they just eating vegetables? And I was just like, shh, it's fine. Just...
No, I've got to make a milkshake and I've got to put some of this icing on this cake over here that's green because it's vegetables.
Nobody questioned the overwhelming amount of green slop like all over everything. Like that was like no one acts like a human being in this movie at all. Like probably more so than Troll. Like
yeah.
So favorite like scene or like death? Do you guys have like a favorite scene or like death or I don't know, just favorite sequence in general?
And I got to go with the corn. I think that was the corn cob. It was so hilarious and just, I don't know, so way out of left field in some ways that I thought that was really what kind of hit home as the tone for the film. Like this is this is it. This is what you get. So I think it's the funniest one though, just to make like to sit back and like look at it like without the rest of the film, just to look at it and enjoy it for what it was. Just so ridiculous and trying to be sexy but not, and also trying to be symbolic, and you could take whatever you want from it, and being over the top. But yeah, that between that, I guess that, and also maybe when the dude gets turned into a tree. But
that was definitely the best special effects of the whole film.
Surprisingly enough, yeah, I would agree. I'm like, all right, for like a very low budget, like early 90s, like this isn't half bad. Like you didn't look terrible. Like
yeah.
Great Halloween costume. So wanted to do
that's
that.
what you can do for next Halloween, man. I'm the guy from Troll too. But you got to put like the mask on too, and you got to
Yeah, and then you got to get a guy to go with you that has like the jogger outfit on and a jug of milk.
Yeah, and he can pull you in your little, because you can't move. That's right. You got to be completely still.
Oh God. I liked a lot of scenes, surprisingly, but my favorite, because it's such a contrast to the really slow, almost action scenes, like when the family is backing away from the trolls after everyone realizing that they are goblins. Like that's such a long scene, and they're just like slowly backing away, and the goblins just stand there doing nothing. There's a lot of delayed action or inaction like that. That's very annoying. But the scene where Joshua is trying to get his grandpa in the mirror, and the witch just comes like crashing out of it, and then grandpa shows up out of nowhere, takes a hatchet to her, and like that's so fast paced and great. Like I finally had to pay attention. Climax for me by far.
Yeah,
Right.
so you kind of took mine. It's the slowly backing away, because I think it's so indicative of like somebody that doesn't know how to like pace a fucking film. Like it is so weird. Like they never have like, so like when you're like when I was watching that, I'm like, oh, so this is gonna be like who's gonna like move first, right? Like what, like this is gonna build up to set. And it's like no, it's like the goblins have no intention of ever like harming them. Apparently they're just gonna wait them out. But they back, I mean, like it is like the entire length up to the house, like up the damn driveway, like without the camera cutting. It's so weird. Like there's no cuts there, like it's not trimmed, and it serves no purpose like other than to go like what the fuck is happening right now. So that was mine, definitely. Cool. Anybody want to add anything for Troll 2 before we wind it down?
I have my trivia board, so
please.
I was dying to know what you guys would think of the budget for this film. True or false? Troll 2 had a budget of $5,000.
That seems expensive for this.
So this is 1991 or 1990.
I think 1989 is when it was actually filmed.
Okay. I'm gonna say false, but I don't think it's much more than that. I'm gonna say it's like that's gotta be close.
Hmm.
Although I don't know, like let me think. El Mariachi was made for $7,000, like around the same
Right.
time, like the Robert Rodriguez film. I'm gonna say true. I'm changing. I talked myself into it. I'm gonna say true.
I'll go with false. And I'm actually good. I do think it might have been higher, but I don't remember how much it was if I read that. So, but yeah, I'll go with false.
It is false, and I think maybe there's like some money laundering here or something, because I have no idea what they could have spent this on. It was $100,000 was their budget.
Ooh,
Good
yeah.
gravy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Lots of cocaine.
100K.
Like,
The
was it-
Winnebago. They probably bought a Winnebago. That was their
that's right,
expense.
the rental. Yeah.
I honestly don't know what they could have spent that on.
Cleaning the Winnebago.
You have non-professional actors and actresses. Like clearly, like no sets were built. Like that was just like space that they
Yeah.
used. The prosthetics weren't great. The goblins are just masked, like Halloween store mask, like with like brown pajamas. Yeah, that's a good
They
question.
said that like all the actors actually use their own clothes, right? I feel like I read that somewhere.
I
that
think
they brought
so.
their own. So it's like, yeah. So there was no wardrobe really, except for a couple of folks there, maybe.
Director salary $40,000. Writer salary like $40,000, and then just $20K for catering.
Maybe it was
Wow.
all the green food to make it green.
Yeah, food coloring is a costly special effect for
Although
sure.
they had to let go bad.
Wow. Okay. Well, yep, I should have gone with my although my gut was still wrong, because I was like, yeah, it's probably around like 10 or something. But wow. Incredible.
Blows my mind. I'm not accusing them of anything unsavory or criminal, but I'm a little suspicious.
I agree. That is suspicious indeed. The final product does not speak for speak to that budget, I should say. So. Hey audience, you might be noticing that we are all wearing different clothes. Well, we needed an entire week to reflect on the very, very difficult decision to declare Troll 2 as either a unicorn or a dead horse. So now that we've had that extra week to reflect, and definitely did not forget to declare it when we recorded the episode originally, I want to go one at a time. Will, Troll 2, unicorn or dead horse?
You know, going into it, my first thought was this is going to be a sure bet for a dead horse, but I don't know. I mean, I came out of it laughing with you guys. It was by far an awesome experience to do with a group. I know that drinking was involved, but besides that fact, it's just fun with friends. And I think that there's certain movies that are just really dumb and you hate them because they're dumb, but this one was pretty ridiculous, but intentionally ridiculous in such a way that I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's just so much of an interesting story beyond the film itself and how campy and weird it is. Just learning about why it is Troll 2, why it was marketed as trying to be a sequel to something that has no real connection to that. I don't know. Of either movie, I would talk more about Troll 2 than I would about the original Troll. So I actually think that in the end, it actually helped the franchise in a really bizarre way. So that's my take.
You're declaring it a unicorn then?
I am declaring it a unicorn.
All right. May, unicorn or dead horse?
So when I think about unicorns, I think I think about something that is special and magical, but also unexpected. I do think that is the key. It has to be unexpected. It can't be a planned unicorn. And with that in mind, this film, this gem of cinema, was not planned as such, and it is unintentionally, at least as I understand it, just become this iconically terrible and glorious film. And I think the fact that it is screened often with Troll 1 means that it's probably made Troll 1 more popular and made more people watch Troll 1 just as a result of them being a double feature. And yeah, I would say this is a hairy, gooey little unicorn.
And we have our first unanimous decision because also for primarily the reasons that May listed, that we wouldn't probably talk about or care about Troll 1 without Troll 2. I think that you could make a very good argument that this did actually enlarge like the franchise or bring it into clearer focus and added more to the franchise than it took away. So I agree, it is a slimy little unicorn boy troll thing. So that's our first unicorn for unicorn or dead horse. Well done, Troll 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Low budget all the way.
Honestly.
All right. Well, who would like to have a little fun before we draw our next card for take 3? So we're going to play a little game called Keyword Countdown. Full disclosure, I did not create this game. This game was created by the lovely Gav Murphy from RKG Video, my favorite YouTube channel and my favorite internet community, period. There's such lovely people all over that community. Gav has graciously allowed us to occasionally play Keyword Countdown and has given his blessing. But you should check out RKG Video because they make some great content. The way this game works is IMDb categorizes their films by a bunch of crazy keywords. Sorry, Gav, I'm stealing your spiel. What I'm going to do is list off keywords one at a time, and you are going to try to guess the film. I'm going to say, for like the sake of having an expedited game here, like 1 or 2 guesses a piece for each clue is good. You can just shout them out. If you both say the correct film title, whoever says it first will be the winner. You will get an amount of points equal to the amount of remaining clues. So, for example, if you, on the 4th clue you give the correct answer, you would get 6 points for that answer. Make sense?
Sounds good.
All righty. So, film number 1. Your first clue: 4-word title. 4-word title, not forward like the direction, but 4-word title. Yeah, they're going to start off very vague and then they're going to get specific, and the last one's always
Oh, that's the keyword.
Yep, 4-word title is your first.
I thought you were just telling us like
No. That's the first keyword. The keywords are insane. Like, I love looking to see like all the nutty like keywords that for plots that IMDb has. So no guesses.
Life.
Not a bad guess, but nope, that's not it. So it'll be obvious by the 10th clue, just so you know. All right, next clue: love at first sight. Love at first sight. I can see you guys counting mentally. All right, gonna roll to clue number 3: payphone. And you can guess as many times as you want, by the way. Like, if you get it wrong, you're not out of contention, just so you know. But clue number 3: payphone. Payphone. I know, vague. We're going to start getting a little more obvious. Clue number 4: father-son relationship. Father-son relationship.
Silver Linings Playbook. Is that 3 or 4 words?
I'm not sure, but it's not it. Good guess, though.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the title that gets me hung up every time. It's like I can think of other stuff, but this doesn't count.
Clue number 5: fish out of water. Fish out of water. The sigh says it all. All right, moving on. Clue number 6: falling from a tree. Falling from a tree.
Oh, Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The film I talked about in Take 0. How could I not have thought of this sooner? Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Yeah, well, they're pretty vague up to that point, so that's.
I should have gotten it on the payphone.
Yeah. I'm not
All
thinking dimensionally. Oh man. Okay.
So that is actually, I think you get points for the clue that you guessed it on as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 points for Will. Your remaining clues, just if you want to hear what they are: purple underwear, breakfast machine, lightning, teenager from the future.
Nice. Calvin
So,
Klein.
again,
That last one would have.
Yeah. They're all. It's always a gimme on the final one. All right. New film, and we're starting over on the clues. So again, gonna go obscure to obvious. Clue number 1: based on a play. Based on a play.
So we can just guess for any of these.
Yep.
10 things I hate about you.
Nope. Good
Okay.
guess.
Dear Evan Hansen.
Nope. All right. Clue number 2: gambling.
Ooh.
Gambling.
There isn't like an Ocean's play, is there?
I hope there is, now that you've said that. But it is not it's not Oceans though. No.
Oh man.
All right. Clue number 3: title spoken by character. Title spoken by character. I know. These are like the Hail Mary guesses, the first few.
I'm gonna say Casablanca was never a play, right?
Is that your guess, Casablanca?
I was just asking, was Casablanca? Well, I'm sure I'll guess it since I've got 2, but I was just wondering aloud if it was ever a play.
It was, and it is Casablanca. Really,
Oh my gosh.
really nice job. That is a whopping 8
I thought you
points, I
said this
believe.
was a newer film.
No, based on a play,
Oh.
gambling are the only clues, and title spoken by character.
You know, it's really funny because I recently just watched that movie with my wife because she had never seen it until we just watched it like the other week. So that's really funny that's it. I love that film. Man, okay.
It was indeed a
awesome.
play. The remaining categories, really nice job. That's 8 points.
Thank you.
Crazy. Police chief, love triangle, free French, famous line, World War II, nightclub owner, and French Morocco is your final.
Man,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh
Casablanca.
man, so good.
it's a sweet one.
Okay, still anybody's game. And here's your next film. Clue number 1: climbing a trellis. Climbing a trellis.
Knives Out.
Boom! Oh my god! You got it on the first one. Holy shit! That is
Troll
10
2.
points for May. Wow!
Sorry, that was climbing a ladder.
Wow!
That was, man,
Come
going for
out
the jugular
swinging.
on that. Jeez.
Come out
I
swinging.
gotta make up. I gotta catch up, Will.
Oh my goodness. That's 10 points for May. The remaining clues would have been college tuition, reference to masturbation, birthday cake, car chase, dysfunctional family, nurse, ensemble cast, whodunit, knife collection. So
I love it.
wow, nice job,
Awesome.
May.
Yeah,
I
that was
love
awesome.
that film. So
Nicely done.
I got lucky.
Excellent.
Nicely done indeed. All right, new film. Clue number 1: character name and title. Character name and title.
George of the Jungle.
It's not.
Chucky.
It is not. All right. Clue number 2 is neo screwball comedy. Neo screwball comedy.
Not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, is it?
It is not. That's a good guess though.
Is that technically Neo or is that older? I guess I don't
I-
really know rhythm.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I would say like it's on the cusp, right? Because it's like late 80s or early 90s, late 80s.
Can I throw one more out there?
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
for it.
Zoolander?
Nope. It is
Ah.
not. Here's clue number 3: love at first sight. Love at first sight.
Anchorman.
It's not. I thought about doing that, but no.
Milk was a bad choice indeed.
All right. Clue number 4, dance party ending. Dance party ending. Oh, all right. Clue number 5, performing CPR on an animal. Performing CPR on an animal.
I feel like I should know something by this
Me
point.
too.
Okay. Clue number 6, fake accent.
Free Guy.
Nope.
Austin Powers.
Nope. Clue number 7. This one's gonna be. I'd be curious to talk after this, but yeah. Anonymous letter. Anonymous letter. Wonder if you guys have seen this. All right. Clue number 8, electronic eavesdropping. Electronic eavesdropping. Oh, all right. Clue number 9, and then I'm going to recap before I do the 10th one. Piggyback ride. Piggyback ride.
I don't think I'm gonna get this one, buddy.
Character name and title. Neo
Yep.
screwball comedy. Love at first sight. Dance party ending. Performing CPR on an animal. Fake accent. Anonymous letter. Electronic eavesdropping. Piggyback ride. And your final clue. I'm sorry, this is the most obvious one for this film. Ejaculation.
Something about Mary.
Yep, that is indeed the film.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yep.
I haven't seen it.
I've seen like
There's
bits and
something about
pieces of that movie. Yeah, it's so weird.
We
Sorry, go ahead.
over quarantine rewatched it. It's got some bits that haven't aged well, but for the most part, it definitely holds up. It's really, really, really funny. But that's kind of like the, like a prototype to stuff that, like, I don't know, like your super bads and things like that, where
Yeah.
Yeah.
highly recommend it. It's a good laugh. Okay. So right now I have the point standings as follows. So Will has 14. May, you have 10. So this is anybody's game. Okay. Final film, first clue. Cabin in the Woods. I know it's not Cabin in the Woods.
I was gonna say, could it be? Could
Cabin in the Woods.
Lake Placid.
No, good a guess as any. Okay, clue number 2, close up of an eye. Close up of an eye.
I don't think I'm gonna get this one.
Clue number 3, floorboard. Floorboard.
Evil Dead.
That's a great guess, but it is not that. That's a great guess, but it's definitely not that one, unfortunately. So far,
The
everything.
other Cabin in the Woods movie. Yeah.
All right, clue number 4, combing hair. Combing hair. Mhm. All right, now we're going to start to hone in a little bit. Clue number 5, investigating footage. Investigating footage.
Blair Witch Project.
No, that's a great guess as well, but it's not it. That is a really excellent guess. Okay. Clue number 6, horse death. Horse death. Right. Clue number 7, death of a child. Death of a child. No Hail Marys.
I have seen almost no Cabin in the Woods type
Mm.
films, which is why I'm not. I'm just not gonna get this one.
It's a little bit of a
Pan's Labyrinth,
curveball.
maybe.
No.
No.
All right. Clue number 8. Telephone terror. Telephone terror.
Hmm.
Right. Clue number 9. Remake of an Asian film. Remake of an Asian film.
The Grudge.
Nope, not The Grudge.
The Ring.
It is The Ring.
Oh my gosh.
Nice job. Well.
I had the film pictured in my head at least before the last clue, and I just couldn't remember the name.
Have you seen
Oh,
it before,
man.
May?
I've seen like clips of it in video essays, so I know about it.
I know
But
you don't like love like anything where it's like body horror, like realistic. So
not
this,
super my thing. Yeah.
but this is like more like supernatural, and it scared the shit out of me like in high school. Like
Yeah.
this was, we talked about audience participation. This until Paranormal Activity, the original, like this was the most I'd seen an audience like lose their minds like in a theater, because like I was too young for stuff like The Exorcist or Alien
Right.
and some of the other ones where people famously like freaked out in the theater. But this one was a ton of fun to sit in an audience with, because there was a lot of like twists and turns and shocky stuff. So but PG-13, nothing overly gross. I highly recommend this too if you want a good like proper like ghost story kind of thing.
I'll add it to my October list.
The last clue was cursed videotape, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Well done. Well, that's just the first of many times. I'm sure we'll play that throughout the course of the show. Again, thanks Gav Murphy for letting us use your game. It's a fun one. Hopefully May and will turn the tables on me and torture me with a list of movies and do a
Definitely.
keyword countdown. It's so fun to design. And I've played this like in the car with people, just like you pull up like the IMDb plot keywords for a movie and just like rattle them out to see how quickly people can get them. So
Awesome.
Well played, Will.
Likewise, and thanks
Both
for
of
giving me
you.
a run for my money, man. That was awesome. So yeah,
climbing a
so-
trellis, boom. That was
Yeah,
great.
it's like, oh, you better watch it. You better watch it. I'm coming. So yeah, it was great.
All right, excellent. Well, we have just one last order of business, and that is to figure out what our next film is going to be. So let me pull up my little cheat sheet here. So I have the films ready to go, and let's draw our card here. Give them
Troll
a shuffle. Yeah, I promise there's no more troll films in the deck. Okay, and our next card is a Deja Vu. Deja Vu. And the film we will be discussing, I guess I should probably read, the definition of Deja Vu. So imitation is the best kind of flattery. Choose a film that pays homage to another film or genre, and whether or not that homage is successful. So this is going to be apropos of our keyword countdown. I promise I did not plan this at all. This is May's selection yet again. May, like the gods must love you. And it's gonna be Knives Out. Knives Out is the film that we're gonna. No shit, I swear to God, not planned. It's on camera. I shuffled the cards. You can hear them moving around and shuffling.
You just like me doing all the research, Chris. Come on.
I'm so sorry. We can always like if it's a fourth one in a row, we can always
No,
check it back in.
This is an easy one because I've seen this recently.
Sure.
And I'm obsessed with it. So I minimal research required for this one. This is great.
Yeah. And
I could do it right now if you wanted to, but
no, it's okay. One of the most fun films, though, I think, to come out in the last couple of years. And so we'll be talking about the genre is pretty obvious for this. I think who done it, and
Yep.
can't wait to sit down and chat on next week's episode. And audience members, there you have it. If you want to watch along, go ahead and give it a rent or give it a watch. And we'll be back next week to talk about Knives Out.
bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.